South Carolina Senator
Jesse Water presses Lindsey Graham on Ukraine joining NATO. Let's hear.
Lindsey Graham. So, Senator, you understand where we're coming from here. Do you think that we should have been plowing full steam ahead to bring Ukraine into NATO? Was that our strategy here, or what was the strategy?
Well, I think you're misreading the tea leaves with all due respect. Putin gave a speech last year where he said that Ukraine was a fiction.
Less than 3.
If you don't believe Putin wants to take the Ukraine and make it part of Russia, you're not listening to what he says.
No, I do.
Okay, well, Moldova's next. Hitler did this whole thing. People didn't believe he had the ambitions he had.
I love when fucking, Lindsey Graham and literally fucking Lindsey Graham has the exact same fucking take as like your favorite YouTube essayist, by the way. I just, let's not even consider that to be a weird thing at all. We should not examine that even further. If your favorite YouTube essayist who declares to be a progressive and Lindsey Graham have the exact same take, don't you think that that's like a little cause for concern? Like the exact same take. Anyway.
He wanted to take over the world and kill all the Jews. Here's what Putin wants to do. He wants to recreate the Soviet Union. He thinks it was a low point in Russian history. In 1994, Jesse, the third largest nuclear nation on the planet was Ukraine. They signed an agreement with Russia, Great Britain, and the United States where they would give up their nuclear weapons with a promise by Russia to guarantee their sovereignty. Putin stepped all over that like Hitler did. So Putin's the bad guy. Biden's the incompetent guy. And I just want to say
this.
I
agree with that. And, it was Bill Clinton that signed that deal to move those nuclear weapons out of Ukraine. If they had had nukes now, this would have been a different story. But do you think that American foreign policy should have been a little bit more delicate with Ukraine, maybe used a little more finesse and tried to keep it more as a buffer instead of just wrenching it out of Putin's hands and just bringing it right into NATO as aggressively as possible? Would that have changed things? Because now...
These are two fucking absolute idiots having a conversation about something that is never going to happen. It's so fucking stupid to have this conversation when you might as well be talking about fucking, I don't know, finding unicorns in the fields right outside of Kyiv, okay? Like, oh, what do you have to say about, this big population of unicorns we found in Western Ukraine? It's like, dude, you're literally having a convo about unachievable points that not a single person that actually has real proximity to power, which, by the way, Lindsey Graham also does and knows, but he's being oblivious on purpose, will ever really have a convo about, okay? It's like, when you talk to the people in positions of power, they already fucking know that this is not a real thing. It's so weird and so silly to have this conversation over and over again. And it is precisely the reason, partially, that so many Americans say things like, no, Ukraine is joining NATO. It's going to join NATO. Why can't it join NATO? Or, yo, Ukraine actually should have a no-fly zone. Oh, Ukraine actually should fucking have boots on the ground. Like, NATO should protect Ukraine. It's not. It's not happening. And the people in positions of power know that it wasn't going to happen. The idea, the fact that you even thought for a brief moment that was going to happen means you got duped by the media, okay? I'm sorry. Your consent was manufactured, and now you're pissing, shitting, and farting, thinking like, why couldn't this thing that was never going to fucking happen isn't happening?
Americans are suffering. Ukraine is definitely suffering, and who knows?
Like we got duped by you? Yeah, duped by me to fucking subscribe at the top of the hour for the 60-second ad break to avoid that. Is that what you mean? Just kidding. I already ran that fucking ad, okay? Double debated. Get fucked. Now these guys are talking about whataboutism, not you. Wait, what? It's not even... The conversation that they're having is so fucking stupid. And it's like continuing a project that was never going to happen. And it's deeply frustrating. And it's fucked up. It's fucked up to make Ukrainians believe that it was ever going to happen to begin with. And that's precisely what I criticize regularly. Okay? What is this? My mom is saying that All of her friends and relatives in Ukraine don't like Zelensky and don't view him as a hero. The portrayal of Zelensky in the media doesn't change his appeal to the people. Allegedly, they view him as the person who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and now has to act accordingly. I mean, it's not a monolith, okay? But it's not a secret that Zelensky's popularity increased understandably as he became like a figure that was deeply unpopular, who now is a figure that was deeply unpopular, or has his popularity had fucking been destroyed in the past years, to now someone who is majorly popular for understandable reasons. The idea that he is no longer the idea that he's no longer popular is silly. He's incredibly popular now. He wasn't deeply unpopular at the start, man. What do you mean? His popularity rating was at like 30%. Shut the fuck up. At the start, he won 70% of the vote. Okay? But he won with like 70%. And then what happened? Where was his popularity before the fucking war? The fuck are you talking about, dude? Yeah, when he won, he was popular, and his popularity waned until the beginning of the fucking war, and then it skyrocketed again. God damn, dude. People are just, I don't know if you like want to misunderstand what I'm saying deliberately or not. Like, people considered him to be not great. Do you want to know why? Because he ran on an anti-corruption campaign and then became corrupt. He run like the servant of the people's show, and the servant of the people's party literally was about fucking anti-corruption and being against oligarchs and being against like foreign influence that destroys Ukrainians and places the interests of capital over the interests of the people. And then he literally did that. So, of course, people were not happy with that. Anyway.
Where the hell this could go?
They had the same arguments about Hitler. Why don't we just give him the German-speaking portions surrounding...
Low-key, Jesse Waters is like, spitting, actually. I misunderstood. Lindsey Graham is doing the fucking same take, like, oh, no, it's appeasement. Bitch, you're not doing anything. Are you going to go? Are you going to fight? Are you going to go pick up arms and fucking defend Ukrainians? No? Then shut the fuck up. You're not going to send troops, because you and I both know that means World War III. That means nuclear holocaust. So why the fuck are you still posturing? Oh, it's just like Hitler. It's just like appeasement. It's just like appeasement. Okay, the opposite of appeasement is awarment, okay, is doing war. World War II is what happened in the aftermath of appeasement. Okay, so what's up? So that's the opposite of World War II in a post-nuclear world is nuclear holocaust. Okay, so is that what you're advocating for? You can't literally fucking, on the one hand, recognize that it would be an unmanageable condition, okay? It would be nuclear holocaust if you fucking invoked Article 5 and or it was a part of NATO. If Ukraine was a part of NATO, and Article 5 would dictate that everyone has to fight. So it's two nuclear superpowers fighting against one another, i.e., global nuclear holocaust.
Less than 3.
What are you advocating for? An immediate fucking ceasefire and negotiations that reinstitute the Minsk agreements, and a full withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukrainian territories, with recognition of Donbass as a autonomous, not sovereign, autonomous region, with an allowance for a referendum if they want to. Okay? So the same as Putin? 1,000,000%, yes. You can't say that's the same as Putin and then also yell at me and say Putin doesn't just want autonomy for Donbass, but actually wants to fucking take over the entirety of Ukraine. Because if Putin's take is to take over the entirety of Ukraine, then I disagree with him. Okay, well, that's not going to happen. Well, that's how we're here in the first place. People think negotiations means like, you know, you take your ball and you go home and you leave. Why the fuck do you think Putin would go for that? I don't know if he would go for that. My point is, even if he's not going to go for that, there is no reason not to try it. There's no reason. Because right now, nothing is happening. Right now, the only thing that's happening is Putin is bombing the fuck out of Ukraine and taking over more strategic positions in an effort to launch the second part of his fucking invasion. That's all that's happening, okay? So we can just sit on our fucking asses, okay, with our dicks in our hands, jerking off about how sexy Zelensky is, like he's a fucking, you know, he's Captain Ukraine, and saying, let's do it. Let's fucking, let's talk about how much we love Ukraine and how much we care about Ukraine, while simultaneously keep telling him like, no, we're going to give you javelins and put them into a further compromised position because it only extends the fucking bloodshed. Okay? At least if you try to diplomatically solve the situation, you avoid further casualties. And if it didn't fucking work, then it didn't work and it wasn't going to work anyway. Okay, so then you're literally at the same standstill. You're at the same position you were yesterday. The only thing is you tried your fucking best. Because ultimately, no matter what happens, you're just, let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade. Someone is going to tell me that that's actually racist or some shit. I don't know if that is true. But let's call a spade a spade. And if it is, I'm sorry, okay? But let's be fucking real for a second, okay? Let's be real for a second. Let's call it what it is, okay? The only thing Americans will offer to the Ukrainian people right now is thoughts and prayers and javelin missiles, man pads, and, maybe Polish MiGs, okay? Maybe. That last part, we don't even know it's going to fully happen. Now that's going to help the Ukrainians in the short term, but it's only going to continue the war for another week, another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks, more deaths, more casualties. They're going to start fucking leveling entire cities in a way that they haven't yet. There's no way out of this. So what happens a week later? Okay, we'll give you more guns. Okay, more people are dying. Okay, we'll just give you more guns. You're not going to send in NATO troops because conflict with NATO countries against Russia, a nuclear superpower, means mutually assured destruction. Russia knows this, and NATO nations know this. And the worst part is, like, we're just lying to the Ukrainians on the internet, just straight up. They want to believe that America has their back, that, like, they'll do a fucking no-fly zone. No, of course they're not going to do a no-fly zone. That would be insane. They want to do a no-fly zone. They're like, please do a no-fly zone. Clear our skies, clear our skies, clear our skies. Okay, but it's not going to happen. The American government has said it's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen because that would be World War III. That would be nuclear holocaust. If you're Ukrainian, if you are a Ukrainian, obviously you're already in World War III, so it doesn't matter to you, okay? Like, look, here, the moment when a Russian MLRS barrage hits a suburb, here, look. That's what they're fucking fleeing. That's World War III to them already. It's already happening. But the Western world is not going to engage in World War III for Ukraine. Here's a little secret. The rest of the world might not even engage in World War III for the Baltic states either. A genuine fear that every Polish person in a position of power recognizes too. Because Poland or any of these Eastern European nations that are a part of NATO are not actually, France or Germany or the United States of America. Okay? That's why you hear so many motherfuckers who are like, I'm in Estonia, I'm in Lithuania, I'm in fucking Finland. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Is this like, should we be worried that Russia's going to invade? Because they know, they fucking know that America might not even give a single fuck about them to avoid nuclear, mutually assured destruction and nuclear catastrophe. Now, the only leverage in that situation is that you are severely destroying NATO's influence, like its influence throughout the sphere, across the sphere. So that is part of the reason why they might actually flex and defend these countries, just to be like, no, there is something. There is something here. If you're in NATO, we have to defend you. Article 5 will 100% defend you unconditionally. Okay? But that is a real fear. And Ukrainians on the ground abso-fucking-lutely say the no-fly zone, whether they believe in it or not, the no-fly zone demands are not being heard, and it makes them feel like they're in World War III right now, but the rest of the world does not care about Ukrainian people. The rest of the world cares about Poland because it's a part of NATO, but not as much as they care about the Ukrainian people. Well, I'm here to tell you, the rest of the world doesn't care about Poland either, okay? We're talking about America. They don't give a fuck about Poland either. The only thing they would do in that situation if Poland was ever under attack is to reinforce NATO's spherical influence, okay? That's it. That's the only reason why they would ever defend one of these fucking countries. That's the truth. Because if NATO doesn't protect every nation in NATO, they're contractually obligated, then the treaty is basically worthless, isn't it? 100%, yes. Now, of course, if you have U.S. troops, you should feel pretty protected. If you have U.S. troops in your country, like Poland currently does, you should feel protected. Because the United States will consider that to be an act of war, and Russians know that that's an act of war against the United States. But if there were no U.S. troops, holy fuck! If you think the United States would protect like Lithuania, you know what I mean? When there's no U.S. troops there, if there were no U.S. troops there and Russia wanted to go in, I don't know, they could. And for those who are saying there are U.S. troops there, dude, I know, except, you know, if they actually thought for a moment that Russia was serious, maybe they would pull out. Find a reason to. Who knows? Look at what happened in Ukraine. What? If we can't have a no-fly zone, we should do a we-fly zone from the Brookings Institute. Lamau skipped the 1 minute. No shot. Wouldn't that be Article 5, though? It is. It is Article 5. But as a chatter pointed out, Article 5 was technically violated before with, like, Turkey versus Russia. Turkey's also, Turkey's also invaded other, or have been in active conflict with other NATO nations. You know what I mean? Turkey, Article 5 doesn't work for Turkey. You know what I mean? But that's Turkey. That's a different, that's an entirely different league of its own. They're just crazy out there. Don't worry about Turkey. You know, Turkey's currently engaging in a kind of Cold War with literally Greece, which has never stopped, and also France. So, in Libya. So Turkey is just doing its own thing. Turkey is a madman playing both sides, buying fucking American weapons, buying American F-35s, and then turning around and buying Russian anti-air defense systems. So don't concern yourself with what Erdogan is doing, okay? I don't know. He's like, I play both sides, so I always come out on top, okay? That's what he's doing. Turkey did not invoke Article 5? No, I know it didn't. I'm saying that it was touch and go with respect to First of all, Turkey did not invoke Article 5, but Turkey's literally fought other NATO countries. What do you mean? And also, Turkey and Russia. No, you misunderstood me. No, Article 5 is when troops are fighting on third countries. Only Article 5 when territories are hit. Yeah, except that would imply that, U.S. sending troops into Ukraine would not invoke Article 5. Because Ukraine would be considered a third country. And they're not doing that. No matter what you think about what Article 5 is, they still consider it an act of war when a fucking official American government or an American military that is on an official American military mission is being killed by a Russian soldier. Hey, if all countries should have nukes, why not push nuclear reactors to partially solve our carbon crisis? Dude, the Hasanabi doctrine is alive and well. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, Turkey shot down a Russian plane that entered its airspace. I mean, we patched that shit up, though. Turkey patched that shit up with Russia because, Black Sea. Phosphorus control, Black Sea, pipelines. According to the Euromaidan press, Ukrainians reject Russia's demands. Poll finds 79% against recognizing LDNR as Russian, 75% against recognizing occupied Crimea as Russian, 56% are against the ban on Ukraine's membership in NATO even if it ends the war. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Also, 100% of Ukrainians could want a no-fly zone, but it's not fucking happening. Guess what? Because it doesn't matter. Also, how are they polling in the middle of war? What the fuck? Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Whoop whoop.
You think the cold response training NATO countries are about to start will provoke Russia further? No. That response team is just for defending NATO nations, not for actually fucking going into war. People misunderstand Article 5 is not instant. The country that was attacked has to invoke it. Then you need unanimous NATO vote. Turkey never did that. NATO only had a mission in Afghanistan due to 9/11. Yeah, do you think that the unanimous vote that would have never come for NATO admission for Ukraine would come, in your opinion, for invoking Article 5 against Poland? Like when Poland invokes Article 5, do you think that like France and Germany would be on board with that? I don't know. I'm just asking. I know all the fucking Baltic states would be on board with that because they're in the same fucking boat as Poland.
A constant source of info and stability in this time less than 3.
I don't know. I actually don't know. I literally don't know. I'm telling you, I don't.
Why don't we give him Austria? You got to understand who Putin is. Putin's not trying to have a buffer zone from NATO. He's trying to destroy the Ukraine and make it part of Russia. He's trying to recreate the Soviet Union to the best extent possible. And Taiwan is going to be given up if we think like this. I'm not going to let Putin control NATO. NATO is an independent organization. Nobody in NATO is going to invade Russia. But if you don't believe that Putin's ambitions are to reconstruct the greater Russia or the Soviet Union, you're missing what he's saying.
I do. I agree. Okay. And I think that's what his motivation is.
Yeah, so
I'm just saying maybe that aggressive approach to Ukraine might have made things a little differently. I could be wrong.
Well,
I could be wrong.
Listen, I really like your show because you let people talk, number one, and you ask good questions. Here's where I think we made a mistake. We should have punched Putin in the nose when he had 100,000 troops on the border of Ukraine. We should have went after the oil and gas sector early on to maybe...
Wait, what? Oh, he just means like sanctions. I was like, what the fuck? Like, we should have punched Putin in the nose by invading Russia. I thought he was going to be like, by invading inside the Russian borders, okay, they never would have seen it coming.
Maybe deter the invasion. At every moment, Biden appeased Putin, and here's what you have.
Yeah, totally. You know, famously, he's not deterred by. He's not deterred by what happened in the sanctions post-invasion, but before invasion, he totally would have been deterred. War is officially over. It's over.
Among us sus. Shugamagamais yasus asushis.
Today, you have good people in the Ukraine fighting to the death for their freedom. You have the Russian army stalled. I think the Chinese are watching how we deal with Putin, so are the Iranians. So what happens in the Ukraine?
Iranians?
Ukraine?
What the fuck? What more can you do to Iran, bro? What do you want to do? Do you want to just nuke them? What do you need to do more to Iran? Like, China is one thing, okay? Apt, for sure. I'll give you that. But Iran? What is Iran going to do?
Let's help the Ukrainians fight back as hard as they can. Yeah. Let's start destroying the ruble. You know why Biden went after Russian oil and gas? No change of heart, change in politics. Americans are pissed that we allowed Putin to get so reckless and so strong. Biden makes Chamberlain look like Churchill. So here's my view of this, and I said it on a show weeks ago. When it comes to bullies, stand up to him. Putin has a pair of twos. We have a full house. I want him to go. I want his regime to end. I hope.
What do we have? We have nothing. We have nothing. What a joke, dude. We have nothing. We have absolutely fucking nothing, dude. What is happening right now? We have nothing.
Lindsey Graham looks like he lives in Bikini Bottom.
People in Russia will take the bastard out. If we'd done this 20 years ago, we'd be a lot better off. What have we learned from history? The longer you let people go who murder, rape, steal, and plunder, you live to regret it. So now's the time to be all in to help the Ukrainian people fight for their own freedom. No boots on the ground, but we can turn the tide of battle. And we got to tell the Russian people, you will never have a normal life if you follow this guy Putin. We're going to destroy the Russian ruble, the Russian economy, and I'm hoping somebody in Russia will step up to the plate and do what they should have done in Germany.
I got to get your answer on this, Senator. The Poles sending MiGs to us in Germany, it seems like they're forcing our hand a little bit. What do you think about that? And also, are you for a no-fly zone?
I'm not for a no-fly zone. You know, one of the things you've been talking about, World War III is not going to happen because of this engagement. But what could happen is that China could take Taiwan and Iran could see our weakness and try to get a nuclear weapon. And that could start a nuclear arms race in the Mideast. I'm all for the MiGs going from Germany back into the Ukraine. Let the Ukrainian pilots come to Germany, fly them back into the Ukraine and take the fight to the Russians. This is a defining moment in European history. It's a defining moment in American history. Putin can't determine who's in NATO, and Putin doesn't want to stop NATO. He wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union and the Russian imperial life. And we got a chance here to deliver a fatal blow to Putin. The best chance in 20 years, and God bless the Ukrainian people for having the guts to fight for their freedom.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Senator Lindsey Graham, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's discuss what's going on with retired U.S. General David Petraeus, the former CENTCOM commander, also former CIA Director General. Thanks so much for joining us. As you know, the U.S. now believes, 8 to 10% of Russian military assets have already been destroyed in less than 2 weeks of fighting. Can they sustain that rate of loss for several more weeks or even months?
Well, it remains to be seen, Wolf. I very much agree with Jim's assessment. This is a grinding affair. Also, the assessment by retired General Anderson that, again, it's a race between our efforts to supply the Ukrainians and the Russian efforts to actually resupply their forces. Their logistics have been woefully inadequate so far, and to get set so they can finally launch what they believe will be the main effort attack on Kyiv. Of course, they want to replace the Zelensky government with one that is pro-Russian. That's the overriding objective. But it's also a race, I think, Wolf, to see how long the Russian soldiers can maintain the intensity. They're about to enter the most difficult of all combat, and that is urban combat. And we used to discuss, how long can you keep soldiers doing this? How many more buildings, how many more rooms can a soldier enter? Each time they enter, the adrenaline's pumping. It's a very grinding, draining experience. And I don't know that Russia has the replacements. You'll recall in Iraq and Afghanistan, we replaced some of our forces every 6 months. Our soldiers, our army forces were replaced every 12 months, 15 months during the surge, a long time in combat. But we always had that rotation going. I'm not confident that Russia can replace the forces that it's losing, much less the entire complement of the forces when they're spent, when they culminate. And again, this is not just physical, and it is grinding physically, again, urban combat, but it's also the mental toll that urban combat takes on those who are the boots on the ground. And when you strip away all the other systems and logistics and tanks and artillery and so forth, this really comes down to infantry on the ground who are going to have to go in after Russia has pummeled, in some cases rubbled, areas of the city and clear those. And in the meantime, on the other side, you have the Ukrainian defenders fighting for their homeland, determined not to let Russia take their capital. And this is going to be a tremendous showdown. And I'm not convinced that Russia can just crush Ukraine the way that many observers perhaps thought before we saw how woeful some aspects of Russian tactics, logistics, and even campaign design have been.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't happened yet. The CIA director, you heard her, you heard him say Putin overestimated his own military capacity while underestimating Ukrainian resistance as well as the international response. So why did Putin so gravely, by all accounts, miscalculate?
Well, I'm sure that, first of all, a lot of his advisors are very cowed, very intimidated by him. You even saw that, actually, with his showdown with his intelligence chief in one of those bizarre, surreal conferences that he had, long speech and so forth. Beyond that, of course, they did prevail in a way in Syria. Of course, the way they prevailed ultimately was they destroyed Aleppo. Again, it was Syrian forces on the ground, though. It was not the Russian forces. They were doing the bombing campaign and some special operations. The same in Grozny. If we remember, that was a long, protracted campaign. There's some real differences here. And number one is just the sheer quality, capability, innovativeness, resourcefulness of not just, again, the Ukrainian soldiers, it's also the partisan.
Bro, the Ukrainians are very good, but resourcefulness is fucking psychotic when you compare a kitted out Ukrainian territorial defense force that has like NATO javelins to motherfucking rebels in Aleppo, dude. Are you kidding me? Are you insane, dude? No, I don't know why they just won't say it. Like, the real reason why Ukraine is putting up a fucking better fight is because, one, Ukrainians are more battle hardened, and it does not look like a 2014 Ukraine anymore because they actually have like something resembling a standing military and territorial defense forces. Okay. But more importantly, 8 years of fucking ongoing war in Donbass has created a lot more veterans and a lot more trained people. But more importantly than that, Not this like they have a reason to fight. They want to fight their homeland. They want to defend their homeland. Like, no, that shit doesn't matter ultimately, okay? What fucking matters is who has superior firepower and more people, more bodies to throw at the problem. The reason why they're fucking winning is because they have a shitload of NATO guns. And he's right about that. He does admit that. Or not winning, but you know what I mean. And in this situation, it's not even a bad thing. However, it is extending this.
Units and even the other resistance. This is the equivalent of, the French in World War II, who are just finding every diabolically creative way to make life difficult for the Russians, whether it's jamming their frequencies, changing road signs, or actually picking off the fuel trucks in that 40-mile convoy to exacerbate the logistical challenges that Russia is already experiencing. So again, this is going to be a tremendous showdown in Kyiv. And again, I don't know how long the Russian soldiers can keep at this. If you think of the losses, I mean, they're approaching again, the very high estimate there is starting to approach what we lost in 20 years of combat in Iraq. And I remember how difficult some of those weeks and months were. I can't.
Oh man, poor you, dude. I bet it was so difficult for you. Sending fucking kids to die. So difficult. Oh man. God. Yeah. Also, the reason why it's different is because, again, whether you want to admit it or not, and people say this is fucking propaganda, but like, America cares more about the safety and security of its own fucking military members over the lives of the people that they're supposedly bringing democracy to. That's just the reality. Russia doesn't have that same attitude. Yeah, sure, they're still fucking, of course, murdering Ukrainian civilians as well, such is the nature of war. It's incredibly fucked up. That's why we're anti-war here, okay? Anti-imperialist, anti-war. But let's be fucking real. That is also the other reason, because we haven't seen shock and awe yet. We haven't even seen a fucking shock and awe style campaign yet. Like, holy fuck. That was day one for America.
I can imagine what the strain must be on the tactical level. Commanders, those above them, and of course they've even lost some multi-star generals, another one of them just in recent 24 hours or so.
Yeah, it's not going well for them. We'll see how desperate Putin becomes. General David Petraeus, as usual, thank you so much for your analysis.
Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.